Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Four Mics for Men. We have our normal individuals here. These are the brothers and the father that will be along with this journey. It started with all four of us, and we're going to continue with all four of us. So I'm going to hand it off to my dad to kind of introduce tonight's topic.
Well, this evening we're going to be talking about a very sensitive subject. This one impacts not just the individuals who go through this situation, but the families that are involved. And so it's really a continuation of our discussion that we had, previously. I need to ask Lester a question though. You mentioned about the premarital counseling. What did you mean?
Oh, my issue. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So. Yeah. I don't know what value I got out of my premarital counseling. That's the reason why I say that. I believe one of the things that I think that people make the mistake, from what I've seen, and I'm not saying everybody, is things are discussed, but they walk out the door, and that's where it ends.
Unresolved. Yeah.
It ends.
Yeah.
And so, and I know maybe the counselor can't control this, but so I'm more pushing it on the people that's getting the counseling. Is some of the things that are brought up with counseling should be tested and evaluated outside the door. So, for example, if you do your whatever, your study, whatever, and you find out that one is selfish, okay, you shouldn't be sitting there, oh, you're selfish, oh, that's so cute, whatever. And then y'all walk out the door, and you don't sit there in a situation, and I'm not saying create them, but you let your relationship, go through the motions where you're in the back of your mind, you're looking to see the next time you have an argument, you say, oh, let me borrow $10, whatever, and the person gets upset, or you start talking about, okay, well let's go ahead and start joining money together, whatever, and that person never brings up that subject. Then you have to now connect the dots and say, okay, now in counseling, we brought up this selfish thing. Now I'm seeing that we've been talking about this thing for months and months and months, and I don't see this thing happening. Is this selfish thing more of a big deal than what I'm thinking?
All right.
And I think that's what does not happen once you walk out the door. Yeah. So when I'm talking about counseling, I'm not saying the counselor is the problem, but people do it. Someone tells them you have this problem, and they walk out thinking that their relationship is fine when it's not.
Right. So a couple of things because I think we might have an episode on premarital counseling.
Yes.
Because listen, the one thing I'll say. You mentioned it earlier about honesty.
Yes.
Some of the counselors are not fully honest.
I agree with you. Yes.
They color code marriage.
Yes.
Hey, it's going to be the romance and flowers and fireplaces and all this romantic music. They're not upfront. That's why we need groups like us who've been through marriage, who've divorced, and say, look, man, this is the real deal.
Exactly. Yes. Amen.
This is what you need to know.
Yes.
Because the thing is, they color coded. And the thing about premarital thing, that's why I said earlier that we spend more time preparing for our driver's license than marriage.
That's
because
true,
here's the reality of this, too. It's hard to get off the track once you're already engaged.
Yes,
people usually do premarital counseling. We're about to get married in 3 or 4 months.
You're not about to walk out the door.
Are out.
Yeah.
Oh, premarital. Yeah. So we overlook stuff in premarital counseling.
That's right.
We don't do what you're saying. Yeah. Let's test this. I'm in love.
Yes, exactly.
In 4 months, people, my family's flying in. They bought their tickets, everything.
Exactly.
So you're already on the track.
Yes.
Premarital counseling should happen when we first started dating.
Amen.
While it's easy to break up, say, look, man, you're selfish.
Correct.
I can leave.
Correct.
Okay, like just Beyonce says, to the left. It's easy.
Yes.
But once you're already on that track,
I agree with you.
No, you overlook premarital counseling.
Yes.
Like, you know what?
It's hard to reverse.
It's hard to reverse.
Yes.
You're already engaged. People are coming, and it's. I know very few people who say, you know what?
Never. Very rare.
I've rarely heard people back up at the last minute.
Yes.
Well, so I think it should be way in advance.
Amen.
Say, this is what marriage is going to be like, and I think for the divorce piece, I think again, this is something that often you talked about the spiritual churches often don't talk about it at all.
Yes, yes.
And then some people, like you said, take sides.
Yes.
So you know what? They don't really prepare you either for the feelings, the emotions you're going to go through. Mm-hmm. So then what happens? You're shunned by the church people.
Yes.
And the world looks at it, well, it's normal, you know what? Just like underwear, just get another pair of underwear. So you have the church that shuns you.
Yes.
Then the world says, hey,
just
you know
recycle.
What? Just recycle. Get somebody else.
Yes,
get over it.
Yes, correct.
And you're left like,
no, well, listen.
Where should I be?
Yes.
And now you're lost.
Yes, here is the thing, Gabe. Here's the thing. With premarital counseling, before we get into that, with premarital counseling, it is true that there are many counselors who just kind of guide you along the path that you want to go.
Yes.
Correct. You're already correct.
Yes.
Oh, well.
Guide you along the path.
Yes.
Now, when I do premarital counseling, it does not matter whether, it would have been good for you to start it in the initial stages when you're going to be dating and you're going through all of that stuff. But most times they have already gotten into that part. So they're on that track already, right? But when I do evaluations, inventory, I unearth.
Okay.
I unearth those underlying issues, and we deal with those underlying issues. And so it's only now if you have dealt, because I've dealt with people who have to wrestle with different issues when we deal with in premarital counseling, wrestle with different issues and so on, and they have to agree, they have to come to an agreement as to whether each spouse will have to say, well, yes, I agree with this, or and then each spouse will have to agree with this. Otherwise, we have to discuss it to see why you're not in agreement with it, because this is the right thing. For example, if you're talking about raising children, this is the point that we are at right now, and we're talking about raising children, and or having children. Really, let's put it that way. And this one says, I don't want to have children, and this one says, I want to have children. I want to have 2 children or 3, and this one is saying, no, I don't want any children at all. Then, once we get into the nitty-gritty of the discussion and understanding, it comes out that if you don't want any children and you want children, the marriage is not going to be successful if you go ahead with it. Because my counsel would be to show you where both of you should be on the same page. Otherwise, you are going to run into difficulty. And the difficulty that you may run into could lead to a situation where it's undesirable for both of you. So this is something that you need to resolve.
So I know we're getting into what seems like validity or not.
Back to the divorce
of the counsel. Well, no. Because I do want to say this. I think one of the issues is we have, especially when it comes to church, we have pastors who are doing counseling that don't have counseling degrees.
I agree, yes.
So when you're doing these assessments, you're not approaching it from a psychology standpoint. You're approaching it from, I'm reading
That's pretty much exactly what they did.
I'm reading what's on this
submit
thing.
yourself to your husbands, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
That's all my counselor did. Just read all your Bible text to me. I'm like, okay. That doesn't change personality. We all sinful.
That's right.
Right.
And I think that in itself is a disservice, and I want to cover that. We could cover that in an episode because I think that's a disservice because I think that's a setup for failure. Because you're at the end of your sessions or your premarital counseling, you have to agree with whoever's marrying you, whoever's doing your counseling and whoever's doing the marrying. He has to sign off to say you are ready for marriage. That's right. So if he has done nothing but read what's on the paper to you, and he has not dug into these things, then how is he going to turn around and tell somebody that, yes, I can stamp this because they're ready? He can't.
Well, he shouldn't.
He shouldn't, rather. That's really the thing, is he shouldn't.
He shouldn't.
Right.
So I want us to get into that in another one because I know that's going to be
it goes back to what you talk about honesty. Honesty on every part. Especially if the pastor or the counselor has been married. Yeah. Look, the book says this, but I'm gonna tell you the truth. Yeah. I'm married. Boom, boom. Yeah. And also people who are getting married, they also need to be honest. Hey, look, this is the deal. Because here's the thing. I think once, like we said earlier, it'd be ideal if you did this when there wasn't the pressure.
Yeah.
We have to get married because
we said too much.
It's better to do earlier, where now I can really learn about my marriages. And look, I'm not ready to do this. Yes. I'm not willing to make the sacrifices needed for us to be married. Yes. But the thing is, and going back to your thing about wanting kids, when you're in love, you're like, well, maybe she'll change one day. Maybe he'll change
all
one
those
day.
things are no.
So you overlook things that are big red flags. Yes. You overlook them because you are so in love. Yeah. So you say love is blind. Love really is blind.
And that's a good point, because actually, the one that says, I don't want the children, and the other one that says, I want children, because they're in love so much, the one who says, I want children, may say, maybe, as we get to know each other and everything, this one will, she'll come around or he'll come around, and vice versa. Right. And therefore you have an agreement. You do have an agreement at that point from the counselor's perspective. You have an agreement. You have an agreement, because this person may say, I really do see where this person has some, because sometimes there are some issues that that will prevent you from really having children, right? And because of that, while the other spouse is saying there are options that we can use to help us along the way, but this one is saying no, and so on. And so they come to an agreement that, look, all right, listen, if we do have, then that's fine. If we don't have, then that's still okay.
But that's not a resolution.
No, but once they come to that agreement, listen.
I believe you.
Once they come to that agreement, there's nothing as a counselor
that you can do. I agree with that. I agree with that.
I agree, and this is the reason why I'm not a counselor. And you're probably gonna tell me, Lester, you can't do that. I would make them sign. I said, listen, I told you that this one does not want children, and this one wants children. So when y'all are arguing, when the counseling's over and y'all are married 10 years down the line, I want y'all to pull out this piece of paper, and both of y'all agreed at the time that you weren't going to pressure the one that didn't want children, and you weren't going to pressure the other one. And so then don't use arguments of, well, I want to get. No, back in the counseling, we said you went into it understand what if she doesn't. Right? But I'm not gonna get into that.
No, we can discuss that.
But that's what I would require people to do. I require people, because too many times that's what happens. People, what you just called agreement, the rest of us didn't call agreement. That type of thing. And I understand as a counselor you have to do certain things. But that's what tricked people into doing stuff like that. But I want to jump back to CJ.
Well, we'll get to that another time.
Yes. But the reason why I brought up the other stuff about the counsel stuff like that is, for me, this is what works for me, doesn't work for everybody, is that, I believe, going back to principles, and me and Dr. Henry talked about this before, is that I acknowledge that love hurts. And love is sometimes treated unfairly. And the reason why I say that is just look at God. Look at the way we treat God.
Right.
And we say we love him, whatever. And he loves us. And so we have to now apply that same thing to marriage. Is sometimes love is unfair. You're gonna be like, well, I keep giving. Well, love is unfair.
Yeah.
You know, love. You know, according to 1 Corinthians 13, love is supposed to be long suffering. Yeah. Love is not supposed to think evil. You know, so when she comes home late at night, or he comes home late at night, you say, I wonder what he's doing. But according to 1 Corinthians, you're not supposed to be thinking the bad thing.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that's not fair. Well, again, love is not fair, and love is difficult. But the reason why I said all the other stuff is because during the counseling part, during the dealing with the decision,
right,
is what I believe the person should be encompassing with, not just the mad part and the sad part, but going back to how did I get here and how did I trick myself into being here? You know, so in other words, I want the person to go back and say, now, when I did the counseling, did any of this stuff come up? If it did come up, why did I pass it over? Was the person honest with me back then? Or when the counselor told me that this one wanted children, this one didn't want children, and now we're 5 years down the line, now I want children, and now part of the reason why I want to break up with this person is because they don't want to give me children. Was I being honest with myself during the pre-counseling when the counselor told us we were going to have a problem, and we said, oh, whatever? That's the type of stuff I'm saying during your grief part.
Right.
You should be working through, asking God to not only reveal to you, but heal you, correct, and all this other stuff, and not just spend the time, woe is me. And I'm trying not to make light of it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times when people go through divorce counsel or go through divorce, they don't necessarily change. They say the problem's with the other person, and then they turn around and they go into another relationship with the same baggage that they have. Right. You know, they don't like dealing with conflict. Well, the first spouse, you didn't like dealing with conflict. Now the second spouse, you don't like dealing with conflict. Well, the problem, the common denominator is you don't like to deal with conflict. You know, and so therefore, during the courtship, you did not take an opportunity to deal with courtship. So now, so that's what I'm saying, going back to what you said is, during that grief thing, is I believe part of the time should be spent wrestling with God and learning from your mistakes, whatever, to try to find out, how did I get here? And, you know, how can I become a better person after I sign the papers and I move on? How can I be a better person? I think that helps with the healing, and it helps you be with a better person.
But here's the thing, though, right? Like I said earlier, I think on both sides of the coin, our society does not prepare us for marriage and for divorce.
Yes.
So you're caught out there with your own feelings. It's easy. It's easier, you know. As I said, Monday morning quarterback. You look back and say, "Well, I should have done that. I should have done this." But when you're in it, you don't necessarily see it. And I guess that's why you have to prepare before you're in it. Either way, I mean, you don't want to plan for divorce.
Yes.
But you know, in our society, over 50% of people get divorced.
Yes. So
you almost have to have like, okay, look, how am I going to deal with that? But we don't talk about it. Just like we don't talk about it on the marriage piece either. And that's why I think people are out there needing support, needing to know how do I deal with these feelings? Because nobody's teaching, nobody's out there telling me, how do I deal with my feelings either before marriage or the divorce side? Gotcha. And I think that's the problem, I think, that we have in our society overall.
Okay, then part of the way that I dealt with it, again, not because of divorce, but because I loved hard, is when I was breaking up, after I broke up, I went to marriage couple retreat. Not by myself, but if someone was talking about marriage, whatever, I went even while I was broken up. I didn't have nobody at the time. So that's the answer when you talk about education. Is part of your process that you should be doing when you go through divorce counseling is fixing those things that were broke ahead of time. So and again, that's why I say improve the person. So if you did not like talking if you didn't like conflict, then you should be doing a separate counseling, not a marriage counseling, but whether it be psychological counseling, whatever. And say, listen, why do I not like conflict? What is my problem? Explain to me why I don't like conflict. So now I'm dealing with, while I'm going through the divorce, I'm trying to learn why I don't like conflict. I'm trying to understand why I don't like, why I pick individuals that I can rescue. This codependency. Why do I pick people that I can rescue for me to feel that they should love me because now I rescued them? Why do I keep picking them? And so that's what I was doing. When I broke up with somebody, I was going through this and going through that, whatever, not knowing, not saying that, I knew, but that's just the way that God just led me. God just led me to do that. So I'm sitting in here, whatever. So I'm writing down and saying, so then the next time I got to do this and this and this. So one girl broke up with me because I wasn't Casanova enough. I knew women like to be pursued, but I was very shy and I just couldn't do it. It just hurt me, to do it. And so they said I was a nice guy, but they were just looking for someone on TV, Casanova, waiting to exhale type thing, all that type of business. And so I made to myself, okay, I said, okay, God, I need to figure out how can I get my courage up to pursue and be Casanova with the next one. So that's what my wife got. And she may laugh if she's watching, but I said some stupid lines. I'm gonna tell you right now. I said some stupid lines, but I tried, because I told myself, okay, she wants to be pursued. I have to be suave. It's not in me. Just throw it out there. Do whatever you got to do. So I learned from that, and I did that, whatever. And so I would encourage that part of your, divorce process when you're going through that is working on being better.
Yeah.
Working on being better, both before, during the divorce, and even after the divorce. I think that'll help with the healing, because God's going to teach you not just about that, but then God's going to be healing your emotional side. He's going to be, he's going to be telling you you've done all that you can do.
Yeah.
He's going to be telling you don't give up yet. All those things are going to be going on if you try to do that educational healing process during the divorce.